we are in here to talk about the elephant on the room. It is a huge, huge elephant. And we are all wondering, like, what the, what the heck are you, dude? Talking about Elden Ring Nightrein in here. In this video, we are going to cover everything said on interviews from the outlets and media that have already, yes, there's a lot of people that has already played the game, and clear some concerns that I have seen from people online, in forums and comments and things like that. I also had those very same concerns, and thankfully enough, I think that we are on the safe side, at least in here. First, what are we talking about? Who made this game? Because it was certainly not Miyazaki, it was not Papi Saki. It's made by Junya Ishiyaki. And it does make sense that he's making this game, because first and foremost, he's been the map designer on Dark Souls, which, well, that's one of the aspects that we love the most out of Dark Souls. He was the game designer in Bloodborne, and he was the lead game designer in Dark Souls. And here's where it gets juicy. He was the battle designer on Elden Ring. He was the combat system designer on Elden Ring. Well, not the combat system, but the overall aspects of the battle system and the combat flow that was going to happen in Elden Ring. It only makes sense that he is now directing a game based on the aspect that he had the leading role on the 2022 Game of the Year. But then again, what is Nightrein? It is a roguelike. And you know what? I was intrigued when I saw the trailer. There was like the Nameless King and everything, like wow, dude. I love roguelikes. First, let's clear some concerns that people have with this game. This is not a live service game. It is not something that we will get updates on, because in the words of the game director, we wanted to have a game that felt like a complete package out of the box on the day of purchase, so everything is unlockable. It's not what we'd consider a live service game, Miyazaki says via interpreter. And then again, I think that this is pretty clear. It comes from Software, and you're basically going to have this full game on release that you're going to be able to play with your friends, because it is multiplayer. That being said, there's also the concerns. Maybe you're wondering or worried about the game length or people losing interest in the game. Well, there really is not that much of a big deal in here, because examples we already have. Hades, for example, being my favorite. I still play Hades to this date, not as often as I would like, but I'm pretty sure that at the time I sunk about like 200 or 300 hours back then on Hades launch. On the early access of Hades 2, even though it is not a complete game, I've sunk about 150 hours into that game, dude. Like, those games are addicting as hell. You don't play these kind of games to beat them once and be done with it, because it actually takes you quite a while before you actually get a grip on something and before you actually beat the final boss that you fight in here. You play them to beat them countless of times and get the new skills, which there are going to be in here, the combos, the upgrades, the heroes, the relics for new runs, and playtime value. It's absurdly high because of that, especially this one, which is going to be a co-op. It has already been said there are not going to be any microtransactions, no updates, no new maps, nor heroes. It's a complete roguelike experience that you get what you pay for and you play with your friends, and that's it. We're also talking about From Software here. Even though that this is not strictly made by Miyazaki, I think that we already have a clear vision of what the company, how the company handles business. It is also not necessarily forced on you to play multiplayer, because you can also play solo if you want. As for the bosses, you may want to consider being a part of a team rather than going solo, synergizing abilities and communicating to make sure that you succeed. That said, solo play is fully supported. So with all that being said, what will the overall gameplay idea be? What's the gist of everything? There's a couple of game cycles. Days. Each day you get the chance to explore the map. While you're doing so, you can get new gear, armor, weapons. You're also fighting regular small and elite enemies that you can also experience battle experience by doing so. As it happens, the map is shrinking on you, so your exploration is time limited. We'll talk about the shrinking in a little while, but at night enemies are much more difficult and things get harder, and then there's a boss fight at the end of the night, hence Nightrein, you have to defeat the night bosses. Rinse and repeat for about 3 days, where you have to fight the final boss. If you lose, you have to start all over again, with the trade-off being that you get new relics, new unlocks, you get more powerful to some extent, so that the next run you might have some kind of advantage. Then again, roguelike. These will be small, very small upgrades that eventually get your character in a better shape once you have enough of that stuff. Ultimately, if you like 100 of hours, then you have a much better chance than being able to beat on the first try. So this is ideally the gist of everything when it comes to roguelikes. But also remember that, as with any roguelike, not only your skill but also RNG plays a huge part of everything, since sometimes you might get lucky with some cool combos for the loot or powerful gear that you like to use and you feel familiar with, and some other times you just reach the final boss but you're immediately not feeling the build that you ended up with, that you're going to be able to do something with it. And I do want to clarify again that the map shrinking portion, because I've seen a lot of people commenting and comparing this to a battle royale, it's definitely not. You're not competing with other players in here. This is not a PvP game. There's not going to be PvE in here. It's fully PvE co-op and single player game. The map is shrinking because you're not allowed to wander aimlessly for hours so that you can gear up your character infinitely. You're forced to fight the next stage boss, whether you find cool stuff or not. You have to fight them. You have to fight the final boss. So that's the gist and overall the idea of a roguelike. As of right now, outlets have played the game and they had access to 4 character classes, and supposedly there's going to be 4 more, and actually they play different. Check this one out, for example. The Duchess, for example, has a faster quick step that replaces the dodge roll. It's straight out of Bloodborne. The Duchess has another powerful ability that doubles the damage you and your team have just dealt to an enemy, and yes, it also works with bleed procs. You can also customize your hero during rounds by finding sites of grace and equipping new weapons and powers you'll find as you fight and explore. The character classes leveling system is a little bit more diluted in here and less complex than you have on the base game of Elden Ring, with the factor that you need to have in mind the timer. You cannot be in here upgrading your character infinitely. Then again, because the map is shrinking on you, you have to keep exploring before you fight the night bosses. You don't really need to spend time figuring what stats are you going to level up for your character each run, because yes, you can level up your characters at the site of grace and bonfires, but they have already predetermined level upgrades based on the chosen hero that you're playing at the time. You start off at level 1 and then you have to explore, defeat weak enemies, get stronger, find chests to stand a chance against the deadly bosses of the night. Sites of grace, they function much like they do in Elden Ring, allowing you to refill your flasks and increase your stats, but unlike Elden Ring, all of your stats get upgraded at once, so you don't need to slow down and decide how are you going to invest everything in here. It's going to be more like a class rank. So everything right here, it sounds amazing for me. Then again, if you don't like roguelikes, I don't think that Elden Ring is going to do that much for you. However, I do have to mention that a lot of people didn't like Souls-likes and then they felt enamored with Elden Ring. I'm not saying that it's going to have the same impact that Elden Ring, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to quench the thirst that we all are going to have until we get the next installment of the franchise, which is going to be like the major part of everything. Think of this like an extra something that you can play with, and that is going to give you hundreds of hours of fun, and it's just going to be amazing, dude. Anyways, if you like the content, like and never super appreciate it. Most of you, the gorgeous beautiful person, you're into the gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.